Hello, AP students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have notes over parts of the 7 sins of memory. This is a continuation from the lecture that we started in class, and you may want to find your packet and kind of figure out where we're at. We're getting ready to talk a little bit about blocking. So, let's begin. Blocking is interference that causes forgetting. So, blocking occurs when an item in memory cannot be accessed or retrieved, and a lot of times it's caused by interference. The phenomenon known as tip of the tongue experience kind of occurs when we're trying to learn conflicting things in succession, such as what would happen if we had a French class followed by a Spanish class. In general, blocking occurs when information has encountered interference, and that is when one item acts as an obstacle to accessing or assessing and retrieving another memory. So, 3 things to cue interference. The greater the similarity between 2 sets of information to be learned probably will cause a problem. Meaninglessness of the material makes it more vulnerable to interference than meaningful material. Long-term memory, by the way, is organized by meaning. And number 3, emotional material is a powerful cause of interference. A common source of interference comes from an old habit getting in the way of a new one. Interference also accounts for the legendary problem of the old dog having troubles learning the new trick. Proactive interference. This is when an old memory disrupts the learning and remembering of new information. And we might get into talking about proactive interference being the culprit. An example of, we'll move that out of the way, proactive, there we go, interference occurs after moving to a new home. You still look for items in the old place where you might have once stored them. Proactive interference is a cause of forgetting by which previously stored information prevents learning and remembering a new information. Retroactive interference. When the opposite happens, when newly learned information is blamed on forgetting. So we have retroactive interference. Okay, it's caused by forgetting. Cause of forgetting by which newly learned information prevents retrieval of the old stuff. Retro means backwards, and this explains what happens when you drive a car with an automatic transmission and you forget how to use a clutch when you return to maybe a stick shift. Serial position effect. This is another example of blocking, and if you've ever had a long list of items that you have to remember, there's a pretty good chance that you will remember the first and the end, but you'll have trouble with the middle portion. The primary effect refers to the relative ease of remembering first items in a series, while the recency refers to the robustness of a memory for the most recent items, with a diminished memory for the items that are in the middle. And hence the serial position effect is what it is. And this is a form of interference related to the sequence in which information is presented. Generally, items in the middle of the sequence are less well remembered than items that are either at the beginning or the end. Misattribution. The other day we were talking a little bit about this guy, George Harrison, who you see pictured here, and the fact that he might have subconsciously copyrighted, infringed another song. Misattribution is a memory fault that occurs when memories are retrieved but are associated with the wrong time, place, or person. Of all the 3 sins that have been discussed so far that make memories inaccessible, however, memories are retrievable, but they are associated with the wrong time and maybe the wrong place. Misattribution can cause people to believe mistakenly that other people's ideas are their own. Sorry, George. Suggestibility. This is the external cues that distort or create memories. And memories can also be distorted or created by suggestion, a possibility of a particular importance to a law. Such concerns about suggestibility prompted, move this out of the way, Elizabeth Loftus and her compadre John Palmer to investigate the circumstances under which eyewitness memories can be distorted. Suggestibility is the process of memory distortion as a result of deliberate and inadvertent suggestion. Loftus and Palmer studied participants. First, they watched a film of two cars colliding. Then the experimenter asked them to estimate how fast the cars had been moving. The witnesses' responses depended heavily upon how the questions were worded. This distortion of memory caused by misinformation is known appropriately enough as the misinformation effect. The misinformation effect, this is the distortion of memory by suggestion or misinformation. Clearly, Loftus and Palmer's studies show that memories can be distorted, embellished by cues or suggestions given at the time of the recall. Fabricated memories. To create an entirely false memory, Elizabeth Loftus and her colleagues contacted parents of college students, and they were asked to recall certain things that have happened in their past. After repeated recall attempts over a period of several days, many of the students claimed to remember the bogus events that the parents supposedly had given their kids. Factors affecting the accuracy of eyewitnesses. In the wake of these studies, people's recollections are less influenced by leading questions if they are forewarned that the interrogation can create some type of memory bias. When the passage of time also allows the original memory to fade, people are more likely to misremember information. Each time a memory is retrieved, it is reconstructed and then restored, increasingly the chances of error. The age of the eyewitness matters. Younger children and adults over the age of 65 may be especially susceptible to influence by misinformation in their effort to recall. Confidence in a memory is not a sign of an accurate memory. In fact, misinformed individuals can actually come to believe that misinformation in which they feel confidence in. Recovered memory controversy. Research on eyewitness memory confirms the notion that suggestion can lead people not only to report false memories, but to believe in them. We frequently recover accurate memories of long forgotten events. The ones to be especially suspicious of, however, are memories cued by suggestion or by leading questions. Emotionally arousing events, including inventing ones, are usually remembered vividly. Likewise, many people also hold strong beliefs that memory makes an accurate record of events, even though psychological science has an abundant amount of information showing that memory is prone to error. Recovered memories are both complex and charged with emotions, and most experts agree on the following points. First, sexual abuse of children does occur, and it is more prevalent than most professionals had suspected just a generation ago. Memories cued by suggestions are particularly vulnerable to distortion and fabrication. Early memories, especially those of incidences that may have happened in infancy, are likely to be fantasies or misattributions. Episodic memories of events before age 3 are extremely rare. There is no infallible way to be sure about memories of sexual abuse or any other memories without independent supporting evidence. Although traumatic events can be forgotten, they are much more likely to form persistent and intrusive memories that people would rather forget. And moreover, such events can permanently alter the structure of the hippocampus. There is not solid evidence for repression in the Freudian sense of an unconscious memory that can cause physical or mental symptoms. Bias, beliefs, attitudes, and opinions distort memories. So bias refers to the influence of personal beliefs, attitudes, and experiences on memory. Expectancy bias in a memory is a tendency to distort recalled events to make them basically fit one's expectations. Should be fit. Self-consistency bias. This is the commonly held idea that we are more consistent in our attitudes, opinions, and beliefs than we actually are. People abhorred the thought of being inconsistent, even though research suggests that we're kind of kidding ourselves. One study found that people are less consistent than they remembered themselves being in their support for political candidates. Self-consistency bias appears in emotional memories as well as in memories for attitudes and beliefs. Persistence, when we can't forget. And persistence is a memory problem in which unwanted memories cannot be put out of the mind. The seventh sin of memory reminds us that memory sometimes works too well, especially when intense negative emotions are involved. Similarly, patients with phobias may become obsessed by fearful memories about snakes and dogs and crowds and so on. The advantages of the seven sins of memory, kind of an overview of this. The seven sins are actually byproducts of an adaptive feature of memory, argues Daniel Schechter, and thus transience, the maddening as it is to the student taking a test, is actually a way that the memory system prevents itself from being overwhelmed by information that is no longer needed. Similarly, the blocking may be viewed as a process that usually allows only the most relevant information. The absent-mindedness might be a byproduct of useful ability to shift the memory system built to deal with meaning and discard details. And the sin of persistence is really a feature of the memory system that is especially responsiveness to emotional experiences, particularly those involving fear. Thank you very much.